A failed 4-year-old zombie movie sequel proves 28 years later is already avoiding one issue. When Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's 28 Days Later was released in 2002, it redefined the zombie genre with its gritty realism, fast-paced infected, and bleak post-apocalyptic setting. The film's critical and commercial success led to the 2007 sequel, 28 Weeks Later, a respectable continuation that explored the aftermath of a failed attempt to repopulate Britain. Now, nearly 2 decades later, Boyle and Garland are preparing a long-awaited third chapter, 28 Years Later. Interestingly, its development already shows that it's learning from the mistakes of another zombie sequel that failed to revive its own undead franchise just 4 years ago. That film is Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City 2021, a reboot sequel hybrid that aimed to bring the beloved video game franchise back to life with a more faithful tone. However, its failure, both creatively and commercially, holds a cautionary tale. 28 Years Later seems to be skillfully avoiding the same pitfalls, and that bodes well for fans who've waited nearly 20 years for the trilogy to be completed. The pitfalls of Welcome to Raccoon City. Welcome to Raccoon City had all the ingredients for success on paper. It promised a grittier, horror-driven take on the franchise after Paul W.S. Anderson's more action-heavy film series concluded with Resident Evil, the final chapter in 2016. But when it hit theaters in 2021, it floundered. Audiences criticized its rushed pacing, lackluster characters, confusing story, and cheap visual effects, all of which undercut the horror and suspense it claimed to focus on. One of the film's biggest problems was that it tried to condense multiple storylines and characters from different games into a single narrative. The result was cluttered, lacking emotional depth, and confusing to anyone unfamiliar with the source material. The film didn't trust its atmosphere or tone to carry the story. Instead, it stuffed in fan service and over-explained its plot while underdeveloping its characters. In trying to reboot and please fans simultaneously, Welcome to Raccoon City ended up appealing to neither camp. And this is the exact issue that 28 Years Later appears to be sidestepping entirely. 28 Years Later understands what made the original special. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's return is crucial. Their involvement ensures that the tone and style of the original film will remain intact. Unlike Welcome to Raccoon City, which handed the reins to a new director with limited experience in horror, 28 Years Later has the benefit of being helmed by its original creators, artists who understand the themes, tension, and bleak beauty that made the first film a modern classic. Boyle and Garland's return also suggests that 28 Years Later won't fall into the trap of over-explaining or over-expanding its world. The brilliance of 28 Days Later, and even 28 Weeks Later, was that they left plenty unsaid. The virus's origin didn't matter as much as its effects. The real horror came from human choices and societal breakdown, not just gore or jump scares. In contrast, Welcome to Raccoon City bogged itself down trying to explain corporate conspiracies and game lore rather than letting horror unfold naturally. Characters over lore. Another key issue 28 Years Later is avoiding is the urge to sacrifice character development for world building. While Welcome to Raccoon City had iconic characters like Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy, they were written so flatly that even die-hard fans found them forgettable. In contrast, 28 Days Later gave us deeply human characters like Jim, Selena, and Frank. We watched their relationships evolve, and their choices held emotional weight. Even in 28 Weeks Later, the focus remained on a family fractured by the outbreak, anchoring the apocalyptic horror in real human trauma. By all early accounts, 28 Years Later will continue this tradition. Rumors suggest it will explore a world where the rage virus has taken a permanent toll, not just on society, but on individual psyches. This intimate lens is exactly what zombie storytelling needs, especially in a post-The Last of Us world where audiences expect more than just guts and gore. Trusting the audience. Another mistake Welcome to Raccoon City made was underestimating its audience. It constantly tried to catch people up, assuming viewers needed exposition to understand what was going on. That's a mistake 28 years later seems unlikely to repeat. Boyle and Garland have always trusted their viewers to follow fragmented stories, uncomfortable ambiguity, and morally complex characters. The success of films franchises endure. The right sequel at the right time.